Hello, my name's Karen Hustler and I'm the Assistant Director of Fellowship and Awards at Advance HE. Accreditation Criteria 4 is all about the fellowship judgment process. In awarding accreditation, we expect that you will follow our requirements as set out in the policy, and that sets out the number of reviewers that are required to make a decision at each category of fellowship, and also how that is externally scrutinised through moderation to make sure that you're upholding the standards that we expect for each of the categories of fellowship. We would want you to have a full audit trail of each stage in the judgment process, and we ask you to archive all that information along with the application or the assessment material for 3 years, and that will then enable us, if we need to audit and sample what you're doing. We might also, as a team, come and sit on one of your review meetings or possibly exam board, and we will let you know well in advance if we're going to do that. And we would also then ask for a sample of your documentation. If you're new to accreditation, we won't be accrediting for the full 4-year cycle. We would accredit in the first instance just for 12 months. After that 12 months, we will ask you then to do a full report on what's worked well, any challenges you faced, but also we would want a report from your external, and we would also sample some of the work that has been awarded fellowship. And that will then enable us to have a conversation with you to make sure that everything is working well, and we will then extend your accreditation for a further 3 years. The cycle is 4 years in total. In the judgment process, we have very strict guidelines on how many reviewers and what category of fellowship they should have. We also look for an external reviewer with either senior or principal fellowship to act as a moderator at descriptors 1 and 2, to act as an independent reviewer if descriptor 3 is new to the institution, or to moderate through sampling if not, but also to be one of the independent reviewers at principal fellowship. And that is always the case. For principal fellowship, we ask for 3 reviewers all to have principal fellowship, and one of those reviewers must always be an external reviewer. Descriptor 4 is a challenging category of fellowship, and that importance of the external scrutiny from someone experienced at making principal fellow judgments in the wider sector is part of our quality assurance for that category. Advance HE runs a series of standardisation activities for each category of fellowship, and we also run online exercises. One of our requirements under Criterion 4 is for anyone involved in reviewing or assessing for fellowship to engage in regular UKPSF related CPD and standardisation activities. So one way that you could choose to do this is to join in with our standardisation activities. We do ask for each stage in the judgment process to have a full audit trail. We set out the minimum number of reviewers in our policy in section 4.4. We would encourage you to stick to our minimum requirements and not to involve a wider group of people in reaching final decisions. So if I talk about the assessment process that we go through at Advance HE, that might help to contextualise what I'm talking about here. So at Advance HE, we have peer reviewers from across the globe, and we have about 70 of them. In order to make sure that they're making the best consistent judgments possible, the first thing is to make sure they've got really clear guidance to follow. Our guidance for these reviewers, who are called accreditors, is available on our website, along with all the pro formas that they fill in as part of the review process. You're very welcome to use any of our guidance or adopt our templates and adapt them with your university logos if that's easier for you. You'll be able to see how we follow that process through. We ask that our assessors, our accreditors, to review against each of the descriptor criteria for the relevant category of fellowship. They'll make a decision as to whether each criterion has been met or not met. Where it hasn't been met, then they will provide some feedback to the applicant that asks them to develop their application to strengthen that element. We don't look at each of the reviews that they do. We have thousands of these happening annually. What we do is make sure that all of our reviewers undergo regular training. So we have a series of standardisation activities throughout the year, and our accreditors are all expected to take part in those. We also bring them all together for an annual day of training. So during that annual cycle, we are calibrating their judgments. We're also looking at their performance in writing feedback and engaging with our CPD. And if somebody wasn't engaging in those things, then unfortunately that would be the end of their role as one of our accreditors. We're always very fortunate, however, that our accreditors do a really good job and come from a wide variety of different contexts and disciplinary backgrounds, and we don't line them up to only review within their disciplinary area. These are people who've got broad experience across a whole range of different types of academic practice. One of the reasons, therefore, that we have several people looking at each application is to make sure that all of those perspectives are used in looking at the context of somebody's practice. So we ask for 2 of them to reach a consensus judgment for Associate Fellow or Fellow. And we ask for 3 of them to reach a majority decision on Senior Fellow or Principal Fellow. They don't all have to agree. What they do have to do is to reach a verdict. They will join each other virtually over a 2-week period, looking at a batch of applications at each of the categories, and they will reach their decision and then notify us of that at the end of the review period. We don't change their decisions, so if they've reached a majority decision, they then write the feedback to the applicant if it's unsuccessful. In a scheme or in a programme, I would encourage you obviously to write feedback to all your participants, because everybody, no matter how good their application is, will have some further development need. One of that could be to disseminate what's brilliant about their practice to other colleagues, and that's one of the very powerful things about schemes and programmes in-house. In our instance, we only give feedback to unsuccessful applicants, and we give them a further month then to strengthen their application, and their application will then go revised back to the same group of our reviewers. And that means that those reviewers then will be looking to see if the things that they've asked for have now been strengthened and the descriptor has been met. And the outcome then is either to award the fellowship category or to say, unfortunately, they've been unsuccessful, and to provide feedback that will help them to understand why. So when you're designing your review process, I would encourage you to make sure that all of your reviewers undergo training and calibration, that you plan regular standardisation activities to bring you all together to talk about any challenges that are happening, but then actually you let them get on with their review process, encouraging them to write to the applicant where there are things that they think need strengthening before the award could be made, rather than writing to you as a scheme or programme leader telling you why it's not successful. Where you have an opportunity for resubmission being required, if it's possible to involve the same reviewers again, that is obviously going to be more powerful because they knew what they were looking for. We ask our applicants to highlight any changes to their application in that kind of instance so that the reviewer's time is used to best effect. When you're thinking about the use of your external, it's really important to appoint somebody who meets our requirements as set out in section 4.6 of the policy. And they need to be somebody who's really experienced at making fellowship judgments at the category that you have designed your programme and scheme for. Often they might be somebody who's just a step ahead of where you are with your own provision, or they might be in an institution similar to yours that you might think will understand your context. When you're deciding the sample size that they should look at, then I would recommend that you also set a minimum number as well as a percentage. So it could be 10%, for example, but it might be a minimum of 6 or of 8 applications. Often it's good to get them involved in looking at any that are unsuccessful to give you confidence that the right decision has been made. But do give them a full range of different types of applications as well so that they can see some good practice. And then most importantly is to find a way in this review process of capturing all the good things that you see, because actually that's the practice that you want to share and disseminate across your institution in order for everything good about teaching and learning to be promoted. So I hope that when you design your judgment process, you not only think about the standards, but you also think about how you can celebrate and reward the fellows that come out of the process that you've created. And a celebration is always a very good thing. Celebrate in the way that's best for you and your institution. Make sure that everybody concerned, their line managers, know that they've been successful. It could be that you celebrate with an event, or maybe you just write to them to make sure that they have a nice message to say they've been successful. But what you want to do is to create a community of really active fellows who are proud of their achievements in teaching and learning, and who want to share their practice with other colleagues and really make teaching and learning as good as it can be.